Hi, my name is Mr. Sheldon, and today we're going to be going over solving multi-step inequalities. All right, so first going over our steps to solve, we see here that our first step is to distribute if necessary. So just like with our equations, what we've been doing is we've been working with DCMAM, our don't call me after midnight, to let us know our steps in order of what we need to do when solving these. So our first step is that D, which is to distribute if necessary. Our second step is to combine any like terms. So that's that C right here, right? So we have to combine any like terms that are on either side. And then because we're working with multi-step instead of with variables on both sides, we're not going to have to move any variables because our variables are only going to be on one side for right now, but we'll touch on that next video. So our third step is then to use the addition or subtraction to remove the constant. That's that A. And then to use multiplication or division to remove the coefficient, and that's that last M. And then something to remember is that when we're working with inequalities, that if we have to flip the inequality sign if we are multiplying or dividing by a negative value. All right. So for this first one, I can see here that we have 4x plus 26 minus 2x plus 11 is greater than 49. So first off, I need to see here, do I have any parentheses? Well, I already put an X here because I don't see any parentheses, right? So I don't have to distribute anything on either side of this greater than sign. So then we move on to our C, which is our combined like terms. Well, I see here that this 4x has an X behind it, and this negative 2x has an X behind it, so I can put those together. And then I also see here I have a positive 26, which doesn't have any letter or X's behind it, and a positive 11 that doesn't have any X's or letters behind it. And remember, we're only working with one side of the equal sign at a time, or the inequality sign at a time, so this 49, it's the only thing over here, it's just going to stay by itself. So if I can combine this 4x and this negative 2x, well, what's 4x minus 2x? Well, that's going to be 2x. And then what is positive 26 plus 11? All right, I'm just going to write this in another color, but we have positive 26 plus 11. Well, that's going to give us a positive 37, okay? So then we just drop down that sign because we haven't done anything to change it, and this thing on the right side, so the positive 49. And so now our next step is to move our variables where well, I said earlier, our variable is only on one side, so we don't have to do that one. And then our next step is to add or subtract to remove the constant. So we need to get this 2x to be the only thing over here. And so we need to get rid of this positive 37. Well, what's the opposite of a positive? A negative, right? And so to get rid of a positive 37, to make this 0, I think I have 37 basketballs and I need to get 0 basketballs. Well, I'm going to take away 37 basketballs. And then if I do something to one side, I have to do it to the other. All right. So that leaves me, this 2x is just going to drop down. So we have 2x. Those cancel out because a positive 37 minus 37 is going to be 0. Bring down this inequality sign. And then what's 49 minus 37? Well, that's going to be 12. All right. So now we have done that. And our last step is to multiply or divide to remove the coefficient. And so I need to get rid of this too. Well, like I've told you guys before, I think the easiest way to remember to get rid of something that's being multiplied to the x right here, because you can think this is 2 times x or 2 x's, is you can divide it by the exact same thing that's in front of this x. So you can divide it by a positive 2, all right? And that way, these 2's cancel out, because 2 divided by 2, that's just going to be 1, right? So it's going to leave this x by itself. And because I didn't multiply or divide by a negative, since this is a positive number, I can just leave this inequality sign by itself. So I can just leave this to be a greater than sign. And so then if I divided this side by 2, I also need to divide this side by 2. Well, what's 12 divided by 2? Well, that's going to be equal to 6. So we're going to have x is greater than 6, all right? So that is what we found to be our inequality. Now how can we check it? Well, we can check it by choosing any number we want that is greater than 6 and see if that's true. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make x equal to 7, okay? Right? The next number that's bigger than 6. And so if I'm going to do that, I have to plug in a 7, okay? I'm going to plug in the 7 for every single x that's up here. So that's 1x and 2x right there, okay? And so if I do that, I get 4 times 7 plus 26 minus 2 times 7 plus 11 is greater than 49. All right? So then I just multiply these out, right? So what's 4 times 7? Well, that's going to be 28. 4 times 7 is 28 plus 26. What is negative 2 times 7? Well, if I know 2 times 7 is 14, and if I'm multiplying a negative times a positive, I know this is going to be a negative 14, all right? Because a negative times a positive is always a negative. And then I also have plus 11 is going to be greater than 49, all right? And so now I'm just going to combine all of these. So if I want to, I can bring out a calculator just to make this a little easier. So if I want, I can do 28 plus 26 minus 14 plus 11. That's going to give us 51. So we get 51 on this side is greater than 49. And is that true? Is 51 greater than 49? Yes, that is true. So because of that, we know that x is greater than 6 is our answer. Now, how do we show that on a number line? Well, these don't have any numbers on here already, so I can just put in the values as I seem fit. So we found first our value, right? So we found x is greater than 6. So 6 is our value. So I'm going to put 6 right here in the middle. So then we need to draw our circle, right? Well, is it going to be an open or a closed circle? So is it going to be a circle, just a normal circle, or am I going to have to like fill it in? It's going to be an open circle, right? Because it doesn't have that or equal to sign underneath it. So it's going to be an open circle. And then finally, we have to draw our arrow. Well, if it is greater than 6, everything greater than 6, which way on the number line do I need to go? Do I need to go to the right or go to the left? Which way is getting bigger? It's going to be going to the right. All right. So I can just draw an arrow pointing to the right. And that is going to be our answer on how to graph it, all right? So now I'm going to go over just one more. I'm going to go over number 3. Okay? So first off, we have don't call me after midnight. So our first step is to distribute, right? So do I see anything I need to distribute? I need to distribute the 6, right? Because I see these parentheses. Anytime I think of distributing, I think of parentheses. And so I'll distribute this 6 into the x and the 6 into the negative 8. All right. And so because I did that, well, I didn't do anything to this negative 2x. So I'll keep that there. Well, what is 6 times x? That's going to give me a positive 6x. And then what is 6 times negative 8? All right. So if I do a positive times a negative, well, I know 6 times 8, that's going to give me 48. But because I'm doing a positive times a negative, this number, anytime you multiply a positive and a negative, it's always going to be a negative. So it's minus 48. And then again, I didn't do anything to that 10 or that less than 2. Okay. So now I have finished this. Next, I need to combine our like terms. Well, what I see here is I have a negative 2x and a positive 6x. And I also see here that these don't have x's behind them. So I have a negative 48 and a plus 10, okay? So I'm going to combine these like terms. So anything with an x, I'm gonna add together, and anything without an x, I'm gonna add together. So if I have negative 2x plus 6x, well, I can think, what is 6 minus 2? Okay, it's another way of thinking about it. So it's 6x minus 2x, well, that's gonna be 4x, all right? And then what is negative 48 plus 10? Well, that's just going to leave me with a negative 38, okay? Because I have a negative 48 and I'm getting bigger, so I'm moving to the right. And anytime I'm moving a negative to the right, the number is getting smaller, but technically it's getting closer to 0. So I have negative 38. And I also have is greater than 2. All right. And so now, my next step here is to move our variables. Well, I only have a variable on one side, so I don't need to do that. And I need to add or subtract our constants. So our constant is anything without an x, which is this negative 38. I need to get this I need to get this 4x by itself. And so what do I need to do to this negative 38? If I need to get negative 38 to 0, what do I need to do? Well, I'm just going to do the opposite of whatever it is. So if it's a negative, I'm going to add 38, okay, to get this to be 0. And then because I did it to one side, I'm going to do it to the other as well. And so then we have 4x, because I didn't do anything with that. Those cancel out because 38 minus 38, that's 0, is less than, and then what's 38 plus 2? That's 40. And so our last step here is we need to multiply or divide by a negative, multiply or divide our variable by the coefficient. And so because this 4x here, I need to get this x by itself, I need to divide it, right, by whatever's in front. So I need to divide this 4x by a positive 4. Okay, I'm going to do that same to this side. And I'm just going to write this over here. Well, those x's cancel out, so that just leaves me with an x. And then what's 40 divided by 4? Well, that's going to be 10. And then because I divided by a positive, this sign does not change, okay? So because it's a positive, it doesn't change. And so that just leaves me with x is less than 10. So now I need to check my work, all right? So I need to check my work. And I'm going to plug in any number that is less than 10. So I'm going to use x equals 9, because that's the number right less than 10. You can use any number you want that's less than 10 to check it if you'd like, but I'm going to use x equals 9. And then you're going to just plug in 9 for your x. So I have an x here, and I have an x here that I'm going to plug it into, all right? So I'm going to take negative 2 times 9 plus 6 times 9 minus 8 plus 10 is less than 2, okay? So all I did is I plugged in my 9 for any x that was up here, so it looks exactly the same. And so now I just have to multiply these out. Well, what's negative 2 times 9? Well, that's going to be, I know that 2 times 9 is 18, but again, because we're multiplying a negative times a positive, this number is going to be negative. All right. And then if I want to, I can say that this is, what's 9 minus 8? Well, that's going to be 1, right? So I can just change this to 6 times 1. So what is 6 times 1? Well, that's just going to be 6. All right. Then I didn't do anything to that 10. Here, let me make that a little bit better to see. I didn't do anything to the 10, so I'm just going to drop that down. And then I'm going to keep the sign the same and that other number over there. And so now I'm just going to add these together. Well, again, just for our sake, I'm just going to bring out my calculator real quick. And so I'm going to have negative 18 plus 6 plus 10. What does that equal? That equals negative 2. And so we have negative 2 on this side is less than 2. Well, is that correct? Is negative 2 less than 2? Right, yes, that is. And so because we have a true statement, we know that x is less than 10 is our answer. And so now we have to show this on a number line. And what we're going to do here is we're just going to take 10, our value, which we found up here. Is it an open or closed circle? It's going to be an open circle because you don't have that or equal to sign underneath. And then x is less than 10. Well, which way is less than? We have less than, so we're going to move to the left. So our arrow is going to be pointing to the left. All right. And that is how you work out multi-step inequalities.